Hello everyone, welcome to One-on-One with Clay County History, presented by Clay County Historical and Arts Council. I'm Tess Thomas, your media representative and guide through these conversations that bring our local history to life. Each episode we explore the stories and people and events that shaped Clay County and continue to inspire our community today. Today we're pleased to speak with Jim Rich, the Executive Director of the Clay County Chamber of Commerce. With a distinguished career in education as a retired principal in Hillsborough County, Florida, Jim brings a wealth of leadership experience and a passion for community development to his role in Clay County. Jim, thank you so much for being with us today and doing this interview. We appreciate it.
Not a problem, Tess. Anytime.
Let's start out with a little bit of your background. Can you share a little about your career in education and what led you to become a principal in Hillsborough County, Florida?
Oh, that's a lengthy story, Tess. I'll try to be as brief as I can. The little town that I grew up in Michigan, in some ways isn't much different than Hayesville here in Clay County. One of the things that I can remember from subscribing to the local paper here for years, always look forward to the end of the year with the senior class of what are they going to be doing with their graduation plans. And kind of makes me laugh every now and then, as I probably fell into that category pretty well, because in my hometown, most of our manufacturing was tied to the automotive companies, and eventually it was kind of like everyone was getting laid off. What are you going to do? And so pretty much my choices when I graduated from high school were either to go to school or go work in the local paper mill, which is where my dad had worked for 37 years.
James River?
This was it became Domtar.
Oh, okay.
Which was mostly specialty type papers. But I visited the paper mill one time and realized it was kind of a loud, smelly place.
Yes.
I'm like, no, school's for me. So, the other thing that kind of fell into line, I ended up going away to school. I went to the University of South Florida in Tampa, and worked full-time driving a forklift on a receiving dock to go ahead and put myself through school. It was always interesting because I think the first time I got homesick, because I had no social life. College was supposed to be fun.
Right.
And here I am, driving a forklift, being abused by truck drivers and other managers, and called my mom up. I'm like, Mom, I've checked out my options to transfer to a school back home. What do you think? Jim, why don't you talk to your dad, see what he thinks? Thank you, Mom. I don't think I'll have that conversation with my dad. So I sucked it up and stayed. So eventually I graduated from school and became a teacher. And I was a teacher probably for the better part of 9 years. I really had a charmed teaching career, teaching high school biology, because I taught a couple classes that were a lot of fun, anatomy and physiology honors and also AP biology. So I was dealing with the really gifted type kids where I wasn't going to have any real behavior issues in the classroom. And then kind of along the way, I picked up a part-time job because, back then teachers didn't get paid 12 months out of the year. We were only paid for 10 months. And so that meant I had to go into summer figuring out how am I going to make ends meet until my first paycheck in the fall. And I started teaching night school. Once again, it was biology, but I also helped out in the GED classes. And that really kind of changed my trajectory as far as education became. I was lucky, too, that the administrator actually kind of took me under his wing. And he goes, I think you should go into administration. You're kind of sharp, you're kind of personable, and I'm going to see if I can, get you started on some of these things, which was great. I mean, of course, that meant going back to school, which I swore when I graduated. I didn't want to go back into a classroom no matter what. Ended up getting my degree in educational leadership and then started applying for administrative jobs. Didn't take that long, and the first AP job I had was at a technical school, actually a technical college, which was really, really cool. because we had some vocational programs. We had a tremendous automotive program, which was a partnership with Ford Motor Company, but we also had some other programs as well. Really enjoyed it. And then all of a sudden, I get a call from one of the assistant superintendents and said, "Hey, Jim, I've got a job you might be interested in." Okay, yeah, sure. Anyway, ended up that I actually moved on to another school and was in charge of the largest night school program in Hillsborough County.
Wow.
We would typically have in a year well over 2,000 students enrolled. And I found that very rewarding because, I use this throughout my career, is that, sometimes things happen in a kid's life that kind of puts them behind the 8 ball. Whether it was failing some classes and having to go ahead and retake them, whether it was dropping out completely and getting a GED, or in some cases, just being new to the United States and wanting to try to go ahead and learn how to speak English. That was, like I say, that was very rewarding because those were the students that I would run into when I was out in public. Particularly if it meant going to the grocery store, going to my dentist office, going to the gas station. Those are the kids that remembered you, and they always remembered me for, hey, thank you for having that conversation with me. You probably understood me better than anybody else.
How rewarding, yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
Then once again, I get another phone call. "Hey, Jim, there's another position we think we'd like to have you apply for." And I did, and that was running the largest technical college in our district, Irwin Technical College. I was there as a principal/director for 8 years. As far as vocational programs, we had 32 different programs. Healthcare, whether it was practical nursing, surgical technology, massage therapy, dental assisting. Some really cool stuff in the healthcare side, but we also had a lot of the trades, be that automotive, HVAC, electricity, plumbing, welding, and all those were a lot of fun to go ahead and walk into because, in very simple terms, when you're dealing with high school, your age group is pretty much 16 to 18. When you're at a tech college, your average age is 35.
Oh, wow.
And you're dealing with most people that are 24 to 70.
Oh.
So it's a different type world. And one of the things that was really super cool about this is that, I have to say it was cool. I don't know if anybody else will think this, but it kind of leads its way into being the chamber director. Every one of those vocational programs we had, because of our accreditation, they had to have an advisory committee made up of businesses as a partnership and meet twice a year. And some of the cool things about that is particularly, when we would get some money for grants, we had to justify what type of equipment we were going to buy. And we always took, the industry standard of what everybody was using and then go ahead and purchase that equipment for our students to go ahead and learn on. But also those business people also were looking for our soon-to-be graduates to fill positions in their business. So that was kind of one of the cool things. I can still remember at a meeting just before Christmas break, we had a couple guys from Mosaic Phosphate. They came into the electricity program. They're like, "Okay, Harold, who's your 2 best students that you got graduating? We need people to start working next week." And
Wow.
they did. They did the interviews at the school.
Hired them right on the spot?
Hired them right on the spot.
Amazing.
So that's just some really, really cool stuff. Now,
Yeah.
there are some uncomfortable things, too. There was always I'd have to go to a hospital. Usually that meant that, there was someone there that I needed to see. And of course, you walk in, of course, you're dressed completely down. You don't have the school ID. You don't have the school shirt on. And one of the nursing students, or former nursing students, "Mr. Rich, what are you doing here?" I'm coming to visit someone." "Oh, well, we thought you were checking on us."
Like
No, I actually
nothing.
do have a life, outside of work, but I enjoyed my time in education. I mean, I saw a lot of changes over the years, but it was a lot of fun and very rewarding and very good for me.
How did you do the transition then from education into the Chamber of Commerce? That's a long ways from Florida to North Carolina.
Well, it's kind of interesting, because I look back and just a little bit about my history in the Chamber of Commerce. This is another weird one. Back in the day, we probably started coming to the mountains on vacation probably about 15 years ago. And anytime we would, spend some time in some of these little towns, we, of course, go in their welcome center, occasionally their Chamber of Commerce, and just talk. And my wife's number one question was, what's so great about your community and why would I want to live here?
Okay.
And, I'll say some were kind of stuffy, but this Chamber of Commerce here in Hayesville was very instrumental in getting us here, to move in this region. The former director, Pam Roman, and I'm sure anyone that watches this probably will know who Pam is. We met Pam pretty early on. And so Pam's like, well, where are y'all from? Plant City, Florida. Oh, I'm from Plant City, Florida. Okay, well, so then it became anytime we were up here, we'd come in to see Pam and go, she wanted to know what was happening in our subdivision,
Right.
because it's the same place where she lived.
Oh, that's crazy.
And, here I am, we're curious about what's happening in Hayesville, because we're here for 2 weeks. What are some things that we might want to do, that's kind of cool? And they're always really, really nice to us here in the office. And so before we had made a decision, to move here, it was interesting because I always thought that this is a position that I would really enjoy. Love talking to people, love helping people out as much as what I can with limited knowledge. And, I wanted to give back in some way. So lo and behold, saw something that Pam was retiring. I'm like, oh, bless it. Talk about bad timing.
Right.
Because we weren't ready to move. And they had hired somebody else, Laura Kleis-Heft, and Laura is very near and dear to my heart as well. It was like, well, Laura's a new person. I guess I can figure out something else to do with my time. I can go hang out in the woods, hike, fish, whatever. And then Laura had announced that she was going to retire, and she's the one that called me up. She goes, what do you think? I go, we need to have lunch and let's figure out some things. And I ended up getting the position, which was great. However, I wish I would have known a lot more than what I do now.
Yeah. You did say, you mentioned that it was quite a crash course when you first got here, just a couple of weeks.
Oh, the crash course was absolutely, there was times that I wondered why I did this. Laura was great. I mean, in that, she had about a 2.5 week transition to give me all the information that I would need. Notice, all the information.
Yeah, and condensed version.
Very condensed version
Yeah.
of 2.5 weeks. I don't think there was more than one time that I left here before 5 o'clock. A lot of those days were, basically 8:30 until 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
Trying to get caught up and, learning things, and Laura's still trying to do some work at the same time. But it was valuable. I guess enough stuff stuck in my head, even though I was overwhelmed every day when I left. She gave me a good foundation about how things are.
And what kind of experiences in education kind of shaped your approach to community and business leadership through the chamber now?
Well, I think one of the things that I learned, and I might have said this before, this is a very unique position. And it's not so much different than running a large school. I used to be a huge list maker. I mean, anytime I had 2 or 3 days off, okay, let's figure out the 10 things I want to accomplish. Moved into administration as an AP, I could probably scratch 3 things off a day instead of 10. become a school principal, I have one goal to accomplish this today before I leave. And that may not even have happened. And it's kind of the same way things are at the chamber, is that, you know, you never know what's walking in the door. You don't know what kind of phone call that you're going to get. You don't know what other type of weird tech issues you're going to run into.
Right.
That you're also the tech guy as
Right.
the chamber director.
Put on a different hat.
You know, but I think what I learned most from education to moving here in the chamber is you never get too up, you never get too down. I mean, you can only control the things that you can control yourself. You can't control what others do. And I think that's helped tremendously, that I don't get too stressed.
Yeah. Don't get upset. Just go with the flow.
Now, I do get upset every now and then, but it's usually I'll be out in my truck in the parking lot in my mobile
I hadn't
office.
witnessed you get upset yet, so that's pretty good. I've been here 8 months. What all does your role as executive director entail? Like, what does a typical day look like for you at the Chamber of Commerce?
Typical day. And like I say, you never know.
Yeah.
If we're looking at, you know, a typical day, September, October, that's when we're, you know, really kind of down under the gun, you know, as far as pumpkin chunking. And so what I would describe those as probably the busiest days in the chamber. Is that I'll come in, I get about 10 minutes to go ahead and look through my emails and see if there's anything I can take care of right away. By then the phone calls are coming, you know, from potential vendors. You know, then there's, you know, the other things that go in with that. Of course, there's meetings, because I serve on several other committees here in Clay County. You just never know. I mean, and like lately, I think the big thing that we've been working on, and this starts in October, and we should be done with everything and going to print on Friday, is our business membership directory. A lot of time goes in that, a lot of proofing, a lot of selling of ads, a lot of chasing down money from people that are delinquent, you know. But those are the things that you know really take up most of my time. But in the meantime, you know, you never know what's walking in the door.
Right.
Be it, you know, if it's summertime, we deal with a lot of tourists that come in here. It's just like I used to be. Is that, you know, hey, what's going on? Can I get a flyer for this? What about the concerts on Friday night on the square? You know, and then I usually spend more time with people that have just recently moved here or are thinking about moving here. You know, what are the things that you need to know? I mean, most people, you know, the number one thing they're worried about is health care. Well, I mean, for the most part, you know, we have very good health care here in Clay County. That was one of our concerns before we moved here. Some people are very concerned because they work from home. What about internet? Do I have something available? You know, what about snow? You know?
Yeah.
Of course, you know, when we're recording this, you know, who knows what's going to happen this weekend.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
but, you know, for years, you know, coming up here, you know, when we drive around, look at these houses up on top of the mountains, we just kind of go, yep, that's a Florida person. You know, because they're not here during the winter, and a lot of people don't realize that, you know, you might have a beautiful view up there, but you might be stuck there for 4 or 5
For
days.
months, yeah. If that
you know,
gets iced over, you're not going anywhere.
Which,
so.
you know, if you're vacationing, that's probably the last thing that you'd even think about.
Right.
But if you're going to live here, yeah,
You better consider
you've got
it.
some issues to deal with. And of course, they always ask me, what are your 2 complaints?
Right.
Or what are the 2 things that you had to adjust to? And I always give them 2. The first one is chances of getting a haircut as a guy on a Saturday are slim to none. I mean, truthfully, slim to none. I go, and the second one that you'll run into, and believe it or not, is that if you're looking to get food, like dinner out on a Sunday night or a Monday night, it's not happening. You might find a place here, a place there, but typically most food places are closed on Mondays.
Right, and I'm assuming that's because they want to be open for the weekend while people are out and about, and then they have to have days off, so I guess I get that. So let's talk about some of the programs you're most proud of or key initiatives at the Chamber. You mentioned the pumpkin chunkin'. Is that one of the ones? Or
I think pumpkin chunkin' is... it's the gift that keeps on giving. You know, because I'm very proud of the way Pumpkin Chunkin has became since I've been here. You know, last year was a little bit down because of a weather issue on Sunday.
Yeah.
But this year was very streamlined and very smooth. I mean, which my first year, you know, that I can still say this, you know, from when I first started thinking about applying for this job. You know, went home, told my wife, I go, well, I had lunch with the Lord today. What do you think about this? She goes, the chamber? I go, yep. She goes, you're an idiot. Of course, I'll just look, well, why? You got to deal with Pumpkin Chunkin. She goes,
She already knew.
We've never went to it. You've never seen it. Do you have any idea of what you're getting into? You know, because I'm not an event planner. You know, however, I can coordinate things at a school.
Sure.
You know, but you know, we got through it. But I'm very proud of that. You know, that it came off without a hitch.
Yeah.
It was interesting this year, and you know, I really need to give a shout out to all of the vendors that made it happen. You know, my first year, I think we were still getting, you know, vendor applications up until 2 or 3 days before. This year, I was stunned as all my food vendors had already done their application, had came in and paid for their space, all by the 4th of July. You know, so it was a good problem to have if you're a food vendor. You know, I think some people were shocked that, you know, they're calling me in August and, hey, can I get in? I'll put you on a waiting list in case somebody cancels. And this year we probably had 70 arts and craft vendors that were there.
Yeah, it filled up quick.
And, you know, we're dealing with a waiting list on those up until probably 3 days before. You know, so the organization part, you know, you kind of learn, and I'll say this with any job, you kind of learn what works. You've got different things you can fall back on that seem like it's very similar, and then you just try to improve on things from there.
I understand that we're always looking for volunteers, and I would imagine the volunteers played a big role in the Pumpkin Chunkin also.
They definitely do. I mean, you know, the volunteers that are there, it's always good to have someone that you know that's going to be handling money. Mm-hmm. You know, or someone who has been there before to, you know, even just help with some of the setup things. But the volunteers that I had for Pumpkin Chunkin were huge. And those ladies have been here for at least 10 years as volunteers here in the chamber.
Yeah, amazing stuff, things that
you
they
know,
do.
But of course, we're always looking for volunteers here in the office too.
Right? Yeah.
Which is, I would say to anyone who may want to volunteer, particularly if you're new to the area and want to meet people, this office, you know, sitting out front, you know, dealing with people that come in. I mean, obviously that's some customer service things, but you certainly do meet a lot of people that come in here that are really, really cool.
Yeah. And if you do want to talk to Jim about volunteering here at the chamber, you can email to Jim Rich at director@claychambernc.com, and he'll respond to you pretty quickly. Let's see. How do you see the chamber fostering collaboration between businesses and schools and community organizations? How do you get them all together?
I don't get them all together. They get me with them.
I see.
You know,
they pull you in.
Right, and you know, there's several different committees that I serve on here, you know, in Clay County. I mean, Clay County Transportation, that's quarterly meetings that I always attend. Clay County Community for Schools or for Students, that's quarterly, that, you know, kind of brings together a lot of the community members with the school district. To go ahead and, you know, take a look at some of the issues in supporting students. I serve on the Career Technical Education Advisory Committee at the school, which is all of their vocational programs, kind of like I used to do with the business advisory committees at, you know, at the tech colleges. So that's always fun to have that connection. A couple other organizations that I probably haven't mentioned is that I work very closely with the Beal Center, trying to make sure we have that open line to you know, to figure out what events are coming up. You know, is there something that's changed? You know, those type things. You know, because, you know, honestly, having that relationship this year, my Friday afternoons in the summer used to be constant phone calls from about 11 o'clock in the morning up until the time I left, just with people calling and wanting to know, what was there music on the square tonight? Or it looks like it's rain, has it been canceled yet? Those type things. So that's paid dividends. One that I'm also very involved is, we're not really a nonprofit, but we're kind of a loose collection of people here downtown. It's for outdoor recreation. We did receive a grant last year to develop at least do a feasibility study of a walking path from the library down to the rec park. Of course, that went nowhere, but we still do meet. We do have another project that looks like it's going to get off the board, which is going to be a GIS mapping project here for the county. Not only some of those touristy spot locations, but probably some of our businesses and where our nonprofits are located as well. That's been talked about now probably for about 6 months.
That would be great.
And one that I just kind of found out about, I do work with Sandy Zimmerman with Historic Hayesville pretty regularly. We're going to be meeting in a couple weeks with a group of people from Raleigh about historical designation for the square here in Hayesville.
Great.
So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Because I know that they looked at doing this, I think, 10 years ago, but particularly now, with things changing on the square with the renovation of the old hotel.
Yeah.
It's there's things that we can really improve on downtown. But then again, I think the first time I came here, and it was probably 2004 or 2005 on a day trip, and I'll tell you, driving through Hayesville, it's nothing like it is now.
Yeah, even the 6 years I've been here, it's a big difference. Especially with the road construction.
Yeah, that makes it that's just entertaining. And it didn't take long for people with the road construction, once it opened, that they will blow by you at 70 miles per hour.
Yeah.
in the right lane.
Right.
Just to beat you to
the
where it comes back together.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about community impact, some more about that. What is the Chamber's impact on the local economy or the community? How do you see that?
Well, I think there's one misconception, that some people may have about the chamber. I see some of these Facebook posts, and we kind of get blamed on, look, there's a new Dollar General going up. I'm sure the chamber, it was the people that made this decision.
Right. We had nothing to do with.
We had nothing to do with anything on that part. But we try to go ahead and foster, those relationships with businesses so that we can promote them. I mean, I don't know how many times, someone will come in here and they're like, okay, I'm looking for someone who can, maybe fix some things at my house. Who will you recommend? Well, we always recommend our members first. Same thing when we're dealing with community things. We're blessed in a lot of the nonprofits that do events, they're members. So we will always go ahead and post their information. We might have flyers here in the office, but we'll post that on Facebook, on our community calendar, and we try to promote them as much as what we can. Sometimes it gets a little bit uncomfortable, just with, well, I've got this really great event. I'm like, you're not a member. I can't do anything. I can post it on the bulletin board out there, but that's what you get. For a small fee, we will make sure that we advertise. Yeah,
and plus, also we have that newsletter too. That we have a weekly newsletter, and then Jim, you can find Jim every Friday at 2:00 on WKRK.
Just about every Friday.
Just about.
It kind of depends, because every now, since Tess is here, that means I get to take a Friday off every now and then, like particularly last Friday.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is great. I can take it off and celebrate my birthday.
Oh, happy belated. I didn't realize it was your birthday. Let me ask you this. Like, what do you, in your view, what was the selling point when you asked her what the question, or your wife asked Laura the question, like, what is it about Hayesville and Clay County? Why would we want to live here? Did you agree with what she said, or have you had a different opinion now? Like, what
Of my
made you-
wife, of Laura, or my wife?
No, of the subject. Like, why do you think Clay County is unique as a place to live or work? Or
Well, I think one of the things that always brought us back here, and of course, usually during the summertime, it would be a 2-week vacation. Let's pick a small town as our base. And, we would, do a day trip every other day while we were here. And it was amazing. We always kept coming back to Clay County. And I don't think there was any regrets. I think that, for us, if we wanted to go spend a half day, hiking over at Jackrabbit, going out to Fires Creek, doing a little bit of hiking, or just driving around the country roads, the scenery and the wildlife can be absolutely incredible, particularly in different seasons. And as I always describe things to people that are still in my past that somehow managed to find me somewhere. What's it like living there? And I still go back to one of my guidance counselors stopped in here. This was probably a couple weeks after I started, and she was staying. Her and her husband were staying over at Vogel State Park. And as they're leaving, you walk out of the chamber office, you look to the right, and you just got the Tusquity Range right in front of you. And she was so funny. She goes, "Well, Rich," she goes, "I understand now." She goes, "How would you describe it in one word?" I go, "Magical." Clay County is just the absolute most beautiful place that anybody could live. And I think the other selling point, that we experienced as tourists is, for the most part, everyone is very, very friendly. It's not like you've got stuffy people. Believe me, I was a member at a golf club, a couple different golf clubs, and oh yeah, I've been around stuffy people. Everyone here is just down to earth and so helpful.
I agree. Everyone has been very friendly since I got here. And they're not, like you say, cliquish or uppity or look down their nose at you. That, "Oh, you're new here? Welcome." They just immediately tell you where to go eat, or anything you ask them. They're very friendly. And I really think that the honesty is amazing to me. I worked at the local gas station, and people would leave the credit card in the pump, and the people would come and turn it in. You didn't hear of that in a big city. That your credit card would be gone and maxed out, and the people are just literally honest. I think if you lost your wallet on the sidewalk, you could come back the next day and it'd be on the windowsill.
I can say that may happen, and I've had one experience that might seem completely trivial. But I was up here, I guess it was last summer, and usually Sunday afternoons for me is I'm going to a creek, I'm going to go fly fish, and I'm going to relax. And so usually on Sundays, if I have to put waders on because the water's cold, I will stop up here in the parking lot outside the chamber, get dressed, and last summer of all things, put my waders on, and of course, a certain individual came by. "Oh, Jim, what are you doing here? Are you going fishing?" I'm like, "The rod's out." "Yeah, I'm going."
Here's your sign.
And so, since this person wanted to keep on talking, I kind of stood there and, of course, got up my box of flies. I'm like, "Well, okay, let me rig up and save 5 minutes when I get to a creek." And when I left, I didn't realize that I left the fly box sitting on the side of my truck.
Oh no.
I didn't realize it until I got a little bit further down the road. "All right, let's go do a U-turn. Let's see if we can see where it dropped off, because I've got probably about 75 flies in there that I tied. That's a lot of work."
Oh my gosh, and time and money.
Gone.
No kidding.
Nope. Either couldn't find it. I wouldn't say somebody picked it up unless they knew what it was.
Yeah, if there was another fellow fly fisherman, they would have thought it was their Christmas present in the summer.
That would have been a nice Christmas present.
Right. What's your favorite part about working here at the chamber?
Just the people.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that a lot of us learned during COVID, working in schools, when we were remote, working on a laptop from the couch, Of course, I would still have some of my teachers call me up, just to see, what's going on. They're bored, kids aren't working, all this. And I think when we went back, to in classroom instruction, that's when I think a lot of us realized that, we got into education for that human interaction. And once that's gone, you really don't have a purpose. And so there was a lot of teachers that retired, to not go back in the classroom. And also that's when I signed my retirement papers.
Yeah.
And like, okay, well, I've got 5 years before I have to get out, but at least I'm going to be ready if that day comes.
Did your background in education influence your leadership style here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, how so?
There's a couple different things. I've already said, you don't get too high, you don't get too low. You treat everyone with respect. There's no such thing as a dumb question. These are all things that are just, to me are just common sense. But when it comes to some of the leadership things, when you're getting when you're getting yelled at by a student, yelled at by a parent, yelled at by a teacher because you're not making the right decision, you kind of get thick skin really, really quickly.
I see.
And probably 99% of the people I deal with that come in the office or call me on the phone, they're absolutely beautiful. I'm not dealing with the angry people trying to go ahead and fix things for them.
I see.
Of course, I'm fixing things, but it's different when you're not dealing with someone who's angry.
And what advice would you give someone considering starting a business in Clay County?
Do your market research. I mean, there's times, and I had someone suggest this to me probably right before I started here at the chamber. The fly fishing store had kind of closed up here on the square, and I spent a ton of time in there. And it was interesting in that this person said, "Well, Jim, why don't you go ahead? You love it. Why don't you go ahead and start a business?" I'm like, because I don't think it's going to be supported. And, it was kind of interesting, just using that as an example. There used to be a really good store over in Blairsville. They lasted a couple of years, gone. When you start looking at a business model for something like that, your profit margins are relatively small, and you've got to be able to move product.
Is that because of the season?
Not so much season. I mean, North Carolina is wide open. Georgia's wide open. Well, North Carolina, you're closed down for a month of any hatchery-supported streams during March. But it's just kind of that niche market. And, even though I might really, really enjoy something, if I don't think I'm going to get any customers or it's not going to be supported, it just becomes a hobby.
Right.
And I think that's sometimes what, people do. They might have this dream of this will be a great business, it's really, really needed, but they don't look at, if they're going to have employees, how are they going to get paid? What is a competitive wage? I'm going to have to go ahead and get insurance. How much is that going to be? What am I going to own a building or lease a building? What's my cost on that? So do your market research, if you're looking to open a new business, just because, we want you to be successful, but if the market's not there, it's not going to happen.
What are your hopes for the future of Clay County's business community?
Well, I think probably one of the things that I need to say is that, one of the things that is just wonderful about Clay County and, and even Towns County and Cherokee County is that, this is the home of small businesses. I mean, no matter how you look at it, we have some members that are more corporate, like Erlanger or the radio stations. But, I'm not one of these people that is pro growth and development. I mean, I think one of the things that makes Clay County so unique is that we don't have any of the big box stores. We don't have any of the chain restaurants. I mean, those things are convenient, but they just don't fit here in Clay County.
Really would take away.
In my opinion.
I would agree with you.
I mean, and we have people here, particularly, people that have to purchase things, we always try to shop local first, and I have no problem supporting small businesses, but unfortunately, I'll go back to my fly fishing example. The only thing I will buy online are hooks and bees. And that's just because I can't, I'm going to drive an hour to either Clarksville, to Helen, or to Clayton, or Franklin, and they may not have what I'm looking for. So that does become an Amazon purchase.
Yeah. But other than that, you stay around here to all these mom and pop shops.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How can residents and business owners get involved and support the Chamber's mission?
Well, I think that, to me, obviously, the simple answer would be is the volunteer route, but also one of the things I always try to stress is, stop in and see us. I mean, I have so many people that come in here, not usually the days test works, but I'm sure you probably get these same things. They'll walk into the Welcome Center side, and of course that's where we've got all of our things to do, our business member rack cards, all that, and they're just stunned. They're like, wow, we didn't know you had all this stuff, and we do. We have a wealth of information. We're only as good as what we learn,
right?
But to support things in the community, I hope that the Chamber continues to evolve and be able to support some of those things. As a great example, this year, and I laugh about it, I really do, because, when I came on board, it was made very clear to me that, the Chamber will not do anything or contribute to anything that doesn't make money. And so, okay, first year, no problem. Next year, I bring up the thought of, hey, don't you think we should do a float in the Christmas parade? It's free. It is free. We're not going to incur any cost on this.
Good publicity for us.
And, and I'd like to be more active and have the Chamber out front of some of the things other than just being this building on the corner off the square. And this year, bless it, the board pulled it together and we did get a float in the Christmas parade and had an absolute blast. But I think that's one of the things that has kind of evolved with the Chamber is we've gotten away from those social aspects of event every month and kind of transitioned to focusing on our business members and occasionally do some other things for the community. I mean, 4th of July parade and Freedom Festival, that's us. Yeah. Of course, does it make money? No, I still have to pay my insurance for it. Yeah. But Pumpkin Chunkin' is a huge community event. Yeah. Who knew that you could have 7,000 people over a weekend out there in Brasstown?
I bet you it would have been closer to 10 if it wouldn't have rained this Sunday.
Yeah.
On the weekend. Jim, it's clear that your leadership and vision helped shape the vibrant future for Clay County, and from your years in education to your current role at the Chamber, you've demonstrated a deep commitment to growth and collaboration and community success. I want to thank you for being with us today, and we encourage everyone to learn more about the Chamber's programs and initiatives. You can visit our website at claychambernc.com. If you want to be featured or volunteer for this series, you can email me at cchacahazeville@outlook.com. And our website for the Historical Arts Council is clayhistoryartsnc.org. You can visit us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And I would like to say that this episode has been made possible by a grant from Granny's Attic Thrift Store here in Hayesville, North Carolina, and the NC Arts Council, a division of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, a state agency. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep honoring the history that makes Clay County special. Thank you.